Hello friends, and welcome back to another virtual story time with Miss Liz. Today we're reading a book that is of great interest to me because it's about libraries. Did you know that a long time ago it was really hard to find children's books in libraries? Did you know that sometimes children were not even allowed to go inside the library? It seems strange given how much we love seeing kids at libraries these days, but it took a while for things to change. Today's book gives a bit of history behind how things started to change. This book is called Miss Moore Thought Otherwise: How Carroll Moore Created Libraries for Children. This book was written by Jan Pinborough and is illustrated by Debby Atwell. Miss Moore Thought Otherwise: How Carroll Moore Created Libraries for Children. Once, in a big house in Limerick, Maine, there lived a little girl named Carroll Moore. She had large gray eyes, 7 older brothers, and ideas of her own. In the 1870s, many people thought a girl should stay inside and do quiet things, such as sewing and embroidery. But Annie thought otherwise. She preferred taking wild toboggan rides from the cemetery all the way down past Main Street. Doesn't that look fun? Sledding certainly is one of my favorite things to do when it's snowing. She also liked to bounce along in Father's buggy to the sound of the horses' clip-clopping hooves. Through the trees, Annie could glimpse the white mountains far away in the distance. She dreamed about the world that lay beyond and about what she would do someday. Annie loved the stories and poems Father read aloud to her after dinner. On rainy afternoons, she would climb up to the attic to look at children's magazine called St. Nicholas. In those days, children weren't allowed to go inside libraries. People didn't think reading was very important for children, and especially not for girls. Could you imagine going to the Limerick Library and being told you were not allowed inside and that they had no books for you? For me, that's a terrible thought. Let's see if things are about to change. When Annie turned 19, many girls her age were already married. Back then, an unmarried girl like Annie might keep house for her parents or perhaps become a teacher or a missionary. But Annie thought otherwise. She decided to become a lawyer like her father, and day after day she went to his law office to learn how. Then, in one terrible week, both of Annie's parents died from the flu. When her brother's wife died too, Annie stayed home to take care of her 2 little nieces. Venturing beyond the White Mountains would have to wait. After several years, her brother married again, and Annie heard exciting news. Libraries were hiring women as librarians. Annie packed her bags and traveled to Brooklyn, New York to enroll in the Pratt Institute Library School. So she's finally leaving her hometown of Limerick, Maine for the first time and going to New York to become a librarian. New York was a big city. Some people thought it was a dangerous place for a young woman to live on her own. But Annie thought otherwise. She loved walking along its busy cobblestone streets, going to the circus and the opera, and riding in a horse-drawn car across the Great Brooklyn Bridge. You see how excited she was to be in New York City? Annie studied hard. She graduated from library school and got her first job as a librarian at the Pratt Free Library. Some libraries were beginning to let children come inside, but Annie's library had something brand new. A library room planned just for children. Children could come in and take books off the shelves, and in the evenings, Annie read aloud to them, just as her father had read to her. Word spread about Annie's library until one day, a man named Dr. Boswick asked her to be in charge of all the children's sections in the 36 branches of the New York Public Library. Can you imagine being in charge of 36 libraries? Oh boy. Miss Moore dressed in her finest hat and suit and visited each library from Harlem to Chatham Square. She saw that many librarians did not let children touch the books for fear that they would smudge their pages or break their spines. They thought if children were allowed to take books home, they would surely forget to bring them back. Does this look like a fun and nice library to visit? I don't think so. Miss Moore thought otherwise. She trusted children, so she created a big black book with this pledge inside. When I write my name in this book, I promise to take good care of the book I use at home and in the library, and to obey the rules of the library. Miss Moore persuaded the librarians to use this pledge so all the children of New York could check out books and take them home. Don't they seem a lot happier in this library than in this one? I think so too. Miss Moore pushed for other changes too. She urged the librarians to take down silence signs and spend time talking with children and telling them stories. She pulled dull books off the shelves and replaced them with exciting ones such as The Adventures of Tom Sawyer and The Swiss Family Robinson. She wrote book reviews and made book lists to help parents, librarians, and teachers find good books for children, and to encourage book publishers to publish better children's books. Could you imagine visiting the library and seeing a big sign that said, "Silence"? Maybe a long time ago, libraries used to be a silent space, but now they are like the community's living room. They are for people of all types to gather and learn and have fun. Still, many libraries still kept children's books locked in cabinets or tucked away in corners. They did not have enough books for children or enough shelves to put them on. So when it was announced that a grand new library would be built on 5th Avenue and 42nd Street, Miss Moore was determined to make its new central children's room the best it could be for all the children of New York. This was to be the Central Library in New York City. Miss Moore had child-sized tables and chairs specially made. She chose beautiful pictures by N.C. Wyeth and other artists to hang on the walls. For the floors, she found rosy pink tiles from Wales. She gathered collections of shells and butterflies to display, and then she filled the shelves with the very best children's books she could find. Finally, one warm spring day in 1911, that's over 100 years ago, the huge bronze doors of the New York Public Library swung open for the first time. You may recognize this building and the lions that sit outside. It is a very famous library today, and it's been around for over 100 years now. Crowds lined the streets as police escort brought the President of the United States, William Howard Taft, to dedicate the magnificent new library. When the library opened to the public the next day, the children of New York City walked through their own special entrance to the children's room. Hundreds of new children's books in many languages waited within reach. And beneath every window, a cozy window seat waited for children to curl up in it. Wow! Does this look like a place that you would like to spend some time? I think so. From then on, every day seemed to hold a new surprise in the children's room. Miss Moore organized reading clubs and invited musicians, storytellers, and famous authors like Dr. Seuss to entertain the children. This reminds me a lot of doing story time at my library. Often, Miss Moore would reach into her handbag and pull out a wooden doll named Nicholas Knickerbocker. Children who were just learning English felt less shy about talking when Nicholas was around. One day, the King and Queen of Belgium visited the New York Public Library. "You must come see the children's room," Miss Moore told the Queen. And that day, all the children in the library, from the richest to the poorest, shook hands with a king and queen. Wow. Outside the library walls, 2 world wars, epidemics, and the Great Depression came and went. But inside, the children's room was always warm and bright, a place where children could meet other children and learn interesting things. In big cities and small towns across America, more and more libraries began to copy Miss Moore's central children's room. So did libraries in England, France, Belgium, Sweden, Russia, India, and Japan. When Miss Moore turned 70 years old, it was time for her to retire. Some people thought she should sit quietly at home, but Miss Moore thought otherwise. Her friends at the library gave her a set of luggage with a small green suitcase for Nicholas, and she traveled across the country, teaching more people how to make good libraries for children. Today, libraries across America have thousands of books for children. And thanks to the help of a little girl from Limerick, Maine, who had ideas of her own, any child can choose a book from a library shelf, curl up in a comfortable seat to look through it, and then take it home to read. And that, my friends, is the end of the story. As you can tell, libraries were very different when Miss Moore was growing up. But I'm happy to say that we love having children at the library, and I especially would love to meet you and help you find some great books. If you've been enjoying virtual story time, I will see you tomorrow, my friends. Thanks for watching.